Hello and welcome to this fondant boot cake topper tutorial. So I started with some brown fondant and I roll it out to a 1/2 inch thick. And I'm first starting with the heel. I'm gonna cut out 2 of these. These are gonna be the boot of the heel. See, it's a 1/2 inch thick. So go ahead and cut 2 of those out. I'm using a pen blade. This is my favorite blade to cut with because they are really sharp and they are retractable. You can find these in my Amazon store. I'll put the link in the description. Now I'm rolling out some more brown fondant, and this one I'm gonna roll to a 1/4 inch thick, and then we're gonna make the soles of the boots here. So you're gonna use this sole template here. The templates you can find on my website. I'll put the link in the description as well. So what you're gonna wanna do is attach the sole to the heel of the boot. It's gonna look like that. And we'll be using my edible glue. You can find this edible glue on my website, lhcakery.com. I'll put the link in the description as well. So this is actually only my second time making cowboy boots for a cake. The first ones I did were made out of Rice Krispie treat and they were pretty thick. Now these are more thin, they dry faster, and they look better. So my mistake here is, do you see how I made the indentation there where the heel is? So it goes down right there. That's how I thought it would work. I'll show you later in the video why that didn't work. So just when you're attaching it, just lay it on top to glue it, but don't press down right there where the heel matches the sole. Don't do right there, don't do that. So I'll show you later on in the video why. So right now I'm gonna roll out some pink fondant. This is going to be for the shaft of the boot, the part that goes over your ankle and calf. This is about a 1/4 inch thick as well. There is some Tylose in here, and the reason for that is because I want it to be able to stand up on its own and not just flop over. I don't really measure how much Tylose I add to the fondant. I just add a few pinches at a time until it gets to the consistency that I want and where it's not so stretchy. And that means that it will dry faster and the fondant's actually gonna be able to stay upright and it's not just gonna fall over. So you're gonna need to cut out 2 for each boot, so 4 in total. After you've cut all 4 out, we're going to be using this stitching tool here. And this is just going to give the appearance like there is stitching on the actual boot. So I'm gonna go up and down each side of the shaft that we cut out. And then I'm gonna also put it on the top there where that little V is. I'm not putting it on the bottom because that will be hidden by other parts of the boot that I'm making. On first, I feel like this part will stay better. So I am going to add some of my edible glue on the very bottom of this piece of fondant here, and this will adhere to the part of the boot that we already have established. So I'm just kind of rounding the fondant a little bit just to go along the same shape of the sole there. And then you just kind of hold it a little bit. So it is standing up straight, which is great, thanks to Tylose. So now I'm going to get the other half of the boot shaft here and The reason why it wasn't working is when I made that indentation with the heel and the sole, it goes down a little too far, so there's no contact there for the very bottom of this part of the boot shaft to touch. So I struggled a lot with the very first boot to get it to adhere. The second one went a lot more smoothly because I ended up adding another piece to the sole, which I will show you shortly. So at this point here, I'm just holding both pieces of the boot shaft together, and I'm just going to fold a napkin. It just needs something in between to help kind of keep that shape while I'm trying to get the pieces to glue together. And it actually did help. So if you have, a paper towel or a clean napkin handy, go ahead and fold that and put that into the boot shaft. And I'm actually folding another one to go underneath, because I did realize that that indentation that I made was actually the reason why it was so difficult to get these pieces to glue together. It was just the angle. The angle was weird. So adding another piece of napkin underneath just to kind of lift it up so it will stay together when it's being glued. And this is the moment I realized that indentation was the culprit. The angle was not working. So what I did is I kind of just flattened it out and I just rested it on that napkin there just so that the angle was proper. So the same thing for this boot. I'm putting my edible glue along the bottom and the sides of this boot shaft here. So I'm going to attach that to the sole of the boot and then add my second piece of pink fondant. 1/4 inch thick, I'm just adding another piece of fondant to the sole of this boot here just to kind of lift up the front. I felt like they were leaning too far forward and I wanted to keep that same angle to make sure that the boot shaft stayed glued to it. In this video, I don't have that piece that's exactly this shape, but on my website, I actually did make that shape so that you don't have to guess how big to make it. It's already there for you. A little bit higher in the back, makes it look like a real heel. I'm adding some edible glue here and then I'm just gonna glue it together. This is what it looks like once the other piece is glued on. It's looking good, coming together. Now we're gonna glue the front of the boot on, just put edible glue on the entire back side. If I were to do this again, I would put something inside there, a piece of fondant. You can't really put a napkin or anything non-edible in there to dry, as you wouldn't be able to pull it out. So next time I would do that, a little piece of fondant to give a little dome because they looked a little flat. So now I'm cutting out 2 pieces for the boot back. This is gonna wrap around the back. Use that stitching tool again. Slap some edible glue on the back of those and then just put it right on the back there. We're gonna cut out 4 of these boot straps. You're gonna put 2 on each boot and we're gonna put them where the 2 pieces of the shaft meet up. Make sure you use your stitching tool, add some edible glue and make sure it goes above the boot a little bit. And this is what they look like. And here's what they look like on top of the cake. They came out super cute. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please be sure to like and subscribe.